Mais combustível fóssil, mais vantagem a todos nós. Você sabia que a utilização de combustíveis fósseis é a mais vantajosa para a humanidade? Você sabia que os combustíveis fósseis purificam a nossa água e o nosso ar? Você sabia que os combustíveis fósseis são mais higiênicos? Você sabia que a energia chamada limpa, como a eólica solar, é muito mais cara? Você sabia que os combustíveis fósseis não matam ninguém? Ainda que muitos insistam em dizer, por exemplo, que na França, mais de 48 mil franceses morrem vítimas de poluição. Pois é, e sabe por que fazem isso? Por conta da manipulação. Quando você manipula o sistema, você favorece um lado da coisa e desfavorece um outro, que é muito maior. E o maior, evidentemente, é o próprio povo. Está em maior número e é o agente passivo de toda a transformação. Foi a mesma coisa, por exemplo, com a implementação das tomadas elétricas de 3 pinos no Brasil. Qual era a real utilidade daquilo? Até hoje ninguém sabe, mesmo que muitos tentem justificar o seu uso. Mas de uma coisa a gente sabe, todos nós fomos submetidos a tal mudança. Foi ou não foi? Qualquer equipamento eletrônico que você compra hoje, por exemplo, você é obrigado a utilizar uma tomada de 3 pinos. A pergunta é, quem é que ganha com tudo isso? A gente sabe que a implementação da tomada de 3 pinos veio durante o governo do PT. Veio de repente. E quem foi que ganhou com tudo isso? Eu perdi, você também perdeu. Nós somos as verdadeiras cobaias de todo o sistema. E em relação à demonização dos combustíveis fósseis, existe um motivo sim. A ONU, juntamente com a sua Agenda 2030 de mudança global, visa trabalhar a favor da nova ordem mundial. E alguns países são o centro motor dessa nova ordem, como a própria China, que lidera com o lançamento frequente de tecnologias essencialmente revolucionárias, espalhando-as ao redor do mundo. Só que a China, assim como vários países, tem casos sérios de abusos humanitários, como campos de concentração, o laogai, o tráfico de órgãos, o trabalho escravo, problemas assombrosos de higienização, o sistema de crédito social, etc. A China é um país totalitário, e o que a ONU faz? Ela simplesmente se fecha para todos esses problemas, juntamente com o apoio da grande mídia internacional, que além de acobertar essas negligências, trata a China como um país referência ao resto do mundo. No Brasil, por exemplo, existe a tecnologia de reconhecimento facial, que inclusive está presente no site do governo. Agora, de onde vêm essas tecnologias? Do Brasil? Não. A China tem o maior esquema de espionagem do mundo inteiro. Toda a população chinesa é controlada e monitorada durante 24 horas por dia. A gente pode perceber todo esse esquema perverso de poder através do que está acontecendo atualmente com o cenário da nova doença, da qual eu não posso dizer aqui o nome. A China está sendo utilizada como referência pela grande mídia e pela Organização Mundial da Saúde, a OMS, no combate à patologia atual. Agora, em relação ao surgimento dessa doença, estão fazendo de tudo para encobrir de onde ela veio, mesmo com fortíssimas evidências de que tenha surgido sim no país chinês. Meus amigos, a nova ordem mundial existe sim. As grandes organizações internacionais que hoje visam controlar o mundo estão diante da vontade de uma elite global. O que querem, na verdade, é usar as pessoas como massas de manobra para poderem financiar elites no mundo todo. E a melhor forma de você dominar o mundo é usando do dinheiro e do poder de persuasão para capturar consciências, assim como a China está fazendo hoje, juntamente com o apoio da ONU, com objetivos essencialmente expansionistas e autoritários por trás, colonizando países e aplicando esquemas totalitários de comportamento sem que a maioria das pessoas perceba. São inúmeros acordos políticos, sociais, culturais e econômicos que a China faz com outros países a fim de instaurar o domínio comunista chinês sobre todas as nações. E o Brasil, obviamente, não foge desse perigo. Portanto, a instauração de uma única moeda, uma única nação, um único exército, uma única língua, uma única religião, um único governo e um único líder são um dos objetivos primordiais para garantir a sustentação da nova ordem mundial. E a ONU é a organização orientadora, cuja abre espaço para todo esse caminho. E você não acha que isso seja conspiratório não, porque também já tivemos impérios no passado que tinham o objetivo de controlar o mundo inteiro, como os próprios impérios romano, britânico e americano fizeram. É por isso que muitas pessoas hoje amam o sistema sem saber. Ao sistema é extremamente importante garantir que as pessoas estejam satisfeitas com ele. E no nosso país, facilmente encontramos pessoas assim, fracas de valores e princípios, sem fé, leigas, inteiramente dispostas a confiarem no cientificismo absoluto e, acima de tudo, completamente abertas e antenadas a abraçar qualquer novidade do sistema. Este vídeo aqui é de utilidade pública. Você que é estudante que busca expandir os seus conhecimentos, assista-o até o final. Ele foi traduzido pelo site tradutoresdedireito.org. Vocês vão ver a outra realidade a respeito do uso dos combustíveis fósseis, cujos são constantemente demonizados na grande mídia, nas escolas, nos livros e em milhares de artigos acadêmicos no mundo todo. Espero que vocês absorvam o máximo de informação possível. Um abraço e um ótimo vídeo.
What if I told you that someone had developed an energy source that could help us solve our biggest environmental challenges, purify our water and air, make our cities and homes more sanitary, and keep us safe from potential catastrophic climate change? What if I also told you that this energy source was cheap, plentiful, and reliable? Well, there is such a source. You probably know it as fossil fuel. Oil, natural gas, coal. But wait, don't fossil fuels pollute our environment and make our climate unlivable? That, of course, is what we're told, and what our children are taught. But let's look at the data. Here's a graph you've probably never seen: the correlation between use of fossil fuels and access to clean water. More fossil fuel, more clean water. Am I saying the more that we have used fossil fuel, the cleaner our water has become? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. In the developed world, we take clean water for granted. We turn on a tap, and it's there. But getting it there takes a massive amount of energy. Think of the man-made reservoirs, the purification plants, the network of pipes. In the undeveloped world, it's a much different story. They lack the energy, so they lack clean water. More fossil fuel, more clean water. The same is true of sanitation. By the use of cheap, plentiful, and reliable energy from fossil fuels, we have made our environment cleaner. Take a look at this graph. More fossil fuel, better sanitation. Okay, what about air quality? Here's a graph of the air pollution trends in the United States over the last half-century, based on data from the Environmental Protection Agency. Note the dramatic downward trend in emissions, even though we use more fossil fuel than ever. How is this achieved? Above all, by using anti-pollution technology, powered by fossil fuel, oil, natural gas, and coal. But even without modern pollution control technology, fossil fuel makes our air cleaner. Indoor pollution, caused by burning a fire inside your house, cabin, hut, or tent to cook and keep warm, was a deadly global problem until the late 19th century, when cheap kerosene, a fossil fuel byproduct, became available in America and Europe. Indoor pollution is still a major issue in the developing world today. The best solution? Fossil fuel. And now we come to the biggest fossil fuel concern of all: global warming. On this very sensitive topic, we need to get our terms straight. There is a big difference between mild global warming and catastrophic global warming. We can all agree on that, right? The issue isn't, does burning fossil fuel have some warming impact? It does. The issue is the climate warming dangerously fast? In 1986, NASA climate scientist James Hansen, one of the world's most prominent critics of the use of fossil fuels, predicted that if current trends are unchanged, temperatures would rise 2 to 4 degrees in the first decade of the 2000s. But as you can see from this graph, since 2000, the trend line is essentially flat. Little or no warming in the last 15 years. That's probably why we hear much less talk about global warming and much more talk about climate change. Has this climate change made our world more dangerous? The key statistic here, one that is unfortunately almost never mentioned, is climate-related deaths. That is, how many people die each year from a climate-related cause, including droughts, floods, storms, and extreme temperatures. In the last 80 years, as CO2 emissions have rapidly escalated, the annual rate of climate-related deaths worldwide has rapidly declined by 98%. The reason is that the energy from fossil fuel has allowed the developed world to build a durable civilization, one highly resilient to extreme heat, extreme cold, floods, storms, and so on. The developing world, where natural disasters can still wreak terrible havoc, would like the chance to do the same. But to do that, they will need a lot more energy. The cheapest, fastest, and easiest way to get that energy is from fossil fuels. In sum, fossil fuels don't take a naturally safe environment and make it dangerous. They empower us to take a naturally dangerous environment and make it cleaner and safer. Every year on Earth Day, we're supposed to reflect on all the ways we've made the planet worse. But what if we try something different? What if we reflect on all the ways we've made the planet better? Try this thought experiment. Imagine that we transported someone from 300 years ago, at the very start of the Industrial Revolution, to today's world. What would he think about our environment. Without question, his reaction would be one of disbelief. Not that we had destroyed his pristine natural world, but that such a clean, healthy environment was possible. The air is so clean, our time traveler might say. Where I come from, we're breathing in smoke all day from the fire we need to burn in our furnaces and stoves. And the water. Everywhere I go, the water tastes so fresh, and it's all safe to drink. On my farm, we get our water from a brook we share with animals, and my kids are always getting sick. And then the weather. I mean, the weather isn't that much different, but you're so much safer in it. You can move a knob and make it cool when it's hot, and warm when it's cold. And what happened to all the disease? In my time, we had insects everywhere giving us disease. My neighbor's son died of malaria, and you don't seem to have any of that here. What's your secret? I'd tell him that the secret was energy, specifically energy derived from fossil fuels, oil, coal, and natural gas. These fuels power machines that allow us to transform our naturally hazardous environment into a far healthier environment. Most of the natural world is too hot or too cold, has too much rainfall or not enough. Then there's bacteria-filled water, disease-carrying insects, tornadoes, earthquakes, and tsunamis, to name just a few of nature's unpleasant features. As our time traveler noted, 300 years ago, human beings spent a lot of time breathing polluted air from indoor fires. As unhealthy as it was worth the warmth. But we've been able to conquer all these environmental hazards. We've drained swamps, reclaimed land, cleared forests, built roads, constructed glass and steel skyscrapers. We've irrigated deserts, developed fertilizers and pesticides, linked oceans, all of it in humanity's incredibly successful effort to create a safer, cleaner, more habitable world. And we did most of this using machines running on cheap, plentiful, reliable energy from fossil fuels. To be sure, using that energy has carried risks and created negative byproducts. But thanks to technology, we get better and better at minimizing and neutralizing those risks. Los Angeles was once smog city. Now, its air is cleaner than it's been in decades. London's Thames River was once clogged with sewage. Now, it's clean. So, if you want to live in an environment that is safe, healthy, and clean, highly industrialized countries are the place to be. Where previous generations faced the risk of disease from simply drinking water, which was often contaminated, we have clean water, thanks to man-made reservoirs, treatment plants, underground pipes, and indoor plumbing. Where previous generations walked streets contaminated by large quantities of human and animal waste, we can conveniently and safely dispose of it thanks to sewer systems and the waste management industry. Where previous generations faced large-scale death whenever there was a severe freeze or heat wave, we can live in a comfortable climate year-round, thanks to insulated homes and modern high-energy heating and air conditioning. And the list of such life-improving positives goes on. Thanks to industrial agriculture and transportation, we have grocery stores full of healthy food year-round. Thanks to modern transportation, we have unprecedented access to the rich cultural experiences and natural beauty that the world has to offer. Many of the benefits of today's environment are reflected in life expectancy and population statistics. The average person lives longer in better health than ever before. In sum, human beings have made the Earth a far, far better place to live for ourselves. Yet even though life is better than ever, we are racked with guilt over our industrial development. We hear endlessly that our footprint, meaning our impact on nature, is too big, and that we must go green by making a smaller one. We are made to feel bad for the impact that we have on land, on water, on plants, on animals. But mastering nature is precisely how human beings survive and flourish. It's time to stop thinking about how to save the planet from human beings and resume thinking about how to improve the planet for human beings. Are wind and solar power the answer to our energy needs? There's a lot of sun and a lot of wind. They're free, they're clean, no CO2 emissions. So what's the problem? Why do solar and wind combined provide less than 2% of the world's energy? To answer these questions, we need to understand what makes energy or anything else for that matter, cheap and plentiful. For something to be cheap and plentiful, every part of the process to produce it, including every input that goes into it, must be cheap and plentiful. Yes, the sun is free. Yes, wind is free. But the process of turning sunlight and wind into usable energy on a mass scale is far from free. In fact, compared to the other sources of energy, fossil fuels, nuclear power, and hydroelectric power, solar and wind power are very expensive. The basic problem is that sunlight and wind as energy sources are both weak, the more technical term is dilute, and unreliable, the more technical term is intermittent. It takes a lot of resources to collect and concentrate them, and even more resources to make them available on demand. These are called the diluteness problem and the intermittency problem. The diluteness problem is that, unlike coal or oil, the sun and the wind don't deliver concentrated energy, which means you need a lot of additional materials to produce a unit of energy. For solar power, such materials can include highly purified silicon, phosphorus, boron, and a dozen other complex compounds like titanium dioxide. All these materials have to be mined, refined, and/or manufactured in order to make solar panels. Those industrial processes take a lot of energy. For wind, needed materials include high-performance compounds for turbine blades and the rare earth metal neodymium for lightweight specialty magnets, as well as the steel and concrete necessary to build structures, thousands of them as tall as skyscrapers. And as big a problem as diluteness is, it's nothing compared to the intermittency problem. This isn't exactly a newsflash, but the sun doesn't shine all the time, and the wind doesn't blow all the time. The only way for solar and wind to be truly useful would be if we could store them, so that they would be available when we needed them. You can store oil in a tank. Where do you store solar or wind energy? No such mass storage system exists. Which is why, in the entire world, there is not one real or proposed independent freestanding solar or wind power plant. All of them require backup. And guess what the go-to backup is? Fossil fuel. Here's what solar and wind electricity look like in Germany, which is the world's leader in renewables. The word erratic leaps to mind. Wind is constantly varying, sometimes disappearing completely. And solar produces little in the winter months when Germany most needs energy. Therefore, some reliable source of energy is needed to do the heavy lifting. In Germany's case, that energy is coal. So, while Germany has spent tens of billions of dollars to subsidize solar panels and windmills, fossil fuel use in that nation has not decreased. It's increased. And less than 10% of their total energy is generated by solar and wind. Furthermore, switching back and forth between solar and wind and coal to maintain a steady flow of energy is costly. Utility bills for the average German have gone up so dramatically that energy poverty has become a popular term to describe those who cannot pay, or who can barely pay, their electricity bills. If those bills one day go down, the reason will not be more solar and wind energy, but lower oil and coal prices. There's no free lunch, and there's no free energy, and that very much includes the highly expensive energy from the sun and the wind. I'm Alex Epstein of the Center for Industrial Progress for Prager University.
To subscribe to our YouTube channel, click here. To help keep our videos free, donate here.